Welcome back. Today, we're diving into a highly specific tax optimization strategy that, honestly, a lot of professionals just completely overlook. If you're a fan of mastering the little nuances of the tax code, you know the feeling of hitting a wall when hunting for extra deductions. But there's actually a hidden bonus level built right into the regulations. Today, we're going to break down Section 80CCD1B and the National Pension System, or NPS, to show you exactly how to legally claim an extra tax deduction that goes way beyond the usual limits. Let's get right into this explainer.
Here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the famous 1.5 lock ceiling. Second, unlocking that 50K bonus. Third, the tax regime catch. Fourth, we'll walk through a 15% salary example. And finally, we'll explore the NPS Vatsalya scheme for minors.
All right, starting off with Section 1, the 1.5 lock ceiling.
1,50,000 rupees. If you've ever filed taxes, this number is probably burned into your brain, right? This is the standard, completely rigid ceiling under Section 80 CCE of the Income Tax Act. Think of it as a master cap on your usual deductions. It basically says, hey, no matter how much you invest across all those standard instruments, the government is only going to let you deduct up to this specific amount from your taxable income.
And when we break it down, it becomes pretty obvious why that limit is so frustratingly easy to max out. You've got Section 80C holding your life insurance premiums, public provident fund, all that good stuff, then 80CCC for certain pension funds, and 80CCD1, which handles your standard employee contribution to the NPS up to 10% of your salary. The catch? They literally all aggregate into the exact same bucket. So between your provident fund at work, an insurance policy, maybe some tuition fees, boom, that standard bucket is completely full, leaving you with zero room for extra tax efficiency.
Which brings us to Section 2, unlocking the 50K bonus. So while your standard limit is totally jam-packed under Section 80 CCE, the Section 80 CCD1B limit operates entirely outside of that box. It's like a true bonus unlock. The regulations explicitly say this deduction of up to 50,000 rupees is in addition to your overall standard limit.
Think of this as a completely separate VIP bucket reserved purely for your NPS contributions. To grab this, you just need to contribute to a pension scheme notified by the central government, like the National Pension System or the Auto Pension Yojana. When you do, you unlock an extra deduction of up to 50,000 rupees. And here is the absolute golden rule. This is over and above that standard 1.5 lakh limit. You're literally taking your total deduction footprint and expanding it from 1.5 lakh to a solid 2 lakh rupees.
Moving on to Section 3, the tax regime catch.
Now you might be wondering, well, why doesn't everyone just claim this automatically? Well, there is a very specific catch, a critical compliance twist that you absolutely have to follow. If you overlook this, poof, you lose the deduction entirely. Here's the deal. Under current tax laws, the government established a default tax regime, what we often call the new tax regime, under Section 115 BAC. Now, under this default setting, a lot of standard deductions, including our favorite 80CCD1 and 80CCD1B, are just completely wiped out, gone, not available. So to actually unlock this 50,000 rupee benefit, you must actively choose the optional tax regime, which is the old tax regime. It's a strategic choice, right? You really have to weigh the lower tax slab rates of the default new regime against the sheer power of the deductions you get in the optional old regime.
Let's look at how this plays out in reality in Section 4, the 15% example.
Imagine a salaried taxpayer who is super serious about building their retirement corpus. Let's say their basic salary is 100,000 rupees a month, but they also get dearness allowance, or DA, which is pretty common. Let's say that DA pushes their total eligible salary for pension purposes to 120,000 rupees a month, or $14,400,000 for the year. Now they decide to go big and funnel a hefty 15% of their basic salary directly into their NPS account. How exactly does the tax code handle this oversized contribution?
This is where we see this brilliant spillover concept in action. Step 1, the law caps your standard 80CCD1 deduction at a maximum of 10% of your eligible salary. Step 2, that 10% chunk has to be checked against your already crowded 1.5 lakh limit. But Step 3 is where the magic happens. Because our employee here contributed 15%, they've got an excess contribution. And instead of just losing the tax benefit on that extra amount, the law actually lets you intentionally shift that spillover directly into your special 80CCD1B bonus bucket.
Let's run the actual numbers so you can see it. Their total contribution is 15% of the basic salary, which gives us 1,080,000 rupees for the year.
Next, we figure out that standard 80CCD1 limit, which again is 10% of the total eligible salary. That comes out to 144,000 rupees. So subtract the allowed limit from the total contribution, 1,080,000 minus 144,000 leaves us with a neat 36,000 rupees. And this perfectly shows how that 36,000 excess doesn't just disappear into thin air. It legally spills over right into your bonus 80CCD1B bucket. And since that bucket can hold up to 50,000, that entire 36,000 is fully 100% deductible. It's honestly a masterclass in optimizing your contributions.
Finally, let's wrap up with Section 5, NPS Vatsalya for minors.
This is a brilliant, relatively new scheme that lets you kickstart the wealth-building journey for your kids incredibly early. NPS Vatsalya is specifically tailored for minor Indian citizens. And obviously, because the child is a minor, the account is officially opened and run by a parent or guardian on their behalf.
The actual mechanics of this are super interesting. The account runs for the minor until they turn 18, and then it seamlessly converts into a standard adult Tier I NPS account. It even has some built-in flexibility. If the parent or guardian needs to make a partial withdrawal from the minor's account, subject to some specific regulatory conditions, of course, that withdrawal is completely exempt from tax up to 25% of the contributions made. But here's the absolute most important takeaway for our tax planning discussion today. When a parent contributes to their child's NPS Vatsalya account, the parent can indeed claim the deduction. However, it falls under that exact same 80CCD1B 50,000 rupee limit we've been talking about. You don't get a brand new 50K bucket just for the child. It shares your existing one. Even so, it is a fantastic way to keep your family's overall tax strategy highly efficient while locking in a secure future for your kids.
So after breaking down all the rules, the separate buckets, the whole tax regime catch-all, and those spillover calculations, I really have to ask you, are you leaving 50,000 rupees on the table this tax season? Because if you're just letting your investments bunch up against that 1.5 lakh ceiling and totally ignoring the optional tax regime's potential, you could be missing out on a massive wealth building opportunity. I'm going to leave you with that thought. Take some time to review your own tax strategy, maybe grab a coffee with your financial advisor, and just make sure you're truly maximizing your financial potential. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.